Hey, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to compare two hand grinders. This one from Normcore and the Timemore C2, which both come in under $100. So, which one is best? For full disclosure, Normcore did send me this grinder for a review, and you can find the review of this grinder here, I think. Timemore released the C2 back in 2020, and before this time, it was difficult, maybe impossible, to find a quality hand grinder under $100. All right, so let's dive into this comparison. I want to compare the build quality, the design of the grinders, the grind performance, and how it performs for pour overs, and then some final conclusions. I do want to say that I will not be talking about using these grinders for espresso. While each of them can technically grind this fine, the adjustment is not fine enough to dial in for espresso. When you first pick up the Timemore C2, you will immediately notice that it is fairly lightweight and has a unique checkered pattern around the body of the grinder. This pattern, in my opinion, gives the grinder an excellent feel in the hand, especially when grinding. The body of the Normcore grinder is aluminum alloy with a fixed silicone band that includes a thumb grip to help give you a better grip while grinding. Additionally, this also is a holder for the handle of the grinder. I do prefer the feel and the body to the Timemore C2 with the checkered design on the outside. I think it just gives a slightly better grip. For a grinder under $100, you would expect they would use some cheaper materials on different aspects of the grinder, where you might find some more premium materials on higher end grinders. The Timemore C2 uses plastic on the knob of the hand, the lid, the supports for the shaft, and inside the grind catch. But the hand crank is made of stainless steel. The plastic feels sturdy and is high quality plastic, but at the end of the day, it is plastic. The Normcore, on the other hand, is complete aluminum alloy, including the lid, support for the shaft, the grind catch, and the knob of the grinder is made of wood instead of plastic as well. So this does seem to have a better build quality than the Timemore C2. The Normcore hand grinder does come with a nice case for traveling, along with a brush and an air blower. These are some really nice accessories, especially if you're taking this grinder on the go. The C2 does come with a cinch top carrying pouch and a cleaning brush. Before we get to the grind performance, I just want to say that if you're enjoying this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. While I'm just getting started here on YouTube, those likes and subscriptions really help for YouTube pushing out this content to more people. Of course, only do so if you like this video and find it helpful. The build quality and design of the grinder don't matter if the performance is subpar. So first, let's talk about the adjustment dial. The Normcore adjustment dial gives a more satisfying click for each step, and the C2 has a slightly softer, muted feel to it. But the Normcore adjustment dial does have slightly sharper edges that you can feel on your finger when making the adjustments. It's not that it hurts, but especially comparing the two side by side, the C2 feels better as the edges are a bit more rounded. When attaching the grind chamber back, I do find that the Normcore does sound a bit better or premium as well. So here's the sound of the Normcore. And here's the sound of the C2. I ran numerous sieve tests with the Sieve sifter, and while sieve tests alone are not a determiner of the exact quality of the grind, I do think it helps for some comparisons. Too often I hear reviewers say something to the effect of, using the sieve test, I found X. Well, that is just not enough information to make a judgment call, so I want to lay out my process and then give you my findings. I wanted to find the quality of the grind within pour over range, so I used the top sieve to be 1100 microns and the bottom sieve to be 500 microns. Therefore, anything above 1100 microns would be too coarse, and anything under 500 microns would be too fine. I weighed out 10 grams of beans and applied 1 water spray for the Ross droplet technique, and I took the time for each grind, shook the sieve sifter for 60 seconds, weighed out each level to the 10th of a gram, and cleaned out the grinder and the sieve after each test. Additionally, I did 2 tests for each grind setting that worked for pour overs, then compared my results. The Timemore at 22 clicks jumped up to be primarily above the 1100 micron range, so I'm excluding this on the data. So for pour over settings, I found 15 clicks to 21 clicks to be acceptable, and for the Normcore grinder, I found the range of 14 clicks to 21 clicks to be acceptable. The same coffee was used for all the tests, which was a washed Kenya from Quill's Coffee, and all the coffee was roasted on the same date. Just remember that different coffees grind differently and produce more or fewer fines, so you can't really take these numbers and just apply them to every situation. But I do think the consistency of the test does give give us good comparison numbers between the two grinders. So here are some of the findings. The Timemore C2 was generally 7 to 10 seconds faster, averaging 17 seconds to grind 10 grams over all the tests. The Normcore average was 24 seconds. The average amount of fines retained between both grinders came in at 13%. When it comes to grinds larger than 1100 microns, this is where the Normcore outperformed the C2. The Normcore retained 27% of the grinds, while the Timemore C2 retained 33% of the grinds. In my testing, this was even noticeable to the naked eye. So overall, about 50% of the grinds for all the tests fell in the acceptable range for the Timemore C2, while 57% fell in the acceptable range for the Normcore. To give some context with the test, the Commandante C40 came in with an average of 72% in the acceptable range. Just remember that all grinders are going to produce fines and boulders, but it is about trying to get as many grinds within the acceptable range as you can. So the Normcore does perform slightly better than the C2, but the C2 is quite a bit more aggressive when it comes to grinding and is noticeably faster grinding the beans. At the end of the day, what really matters is the quality of the cup of coffee each grinder produces. And I have to say that each produce really good brews. For me, I found very imperceptible differences in the cup profile when comparing each of the grinders with various brew methods and beans. The C2 may have a slightly sweeter profile than the Normcore, but I really only notice this with certain coffees and brew methods. Overall, each provide a very clean cup of coffee. One final test that may be helpful for you is the sound of the grinder. I've been testing multiple hand grinders, including higher end grinders for another comparison video, and it's absolutely amazing how each grinder has their own unique sound. I can even say that there are a couple grinders that I don't really like the sound of. So for you, while these grinders are very comparable, maybe the sound will win you over one way or the other. Here's the Timemore C2. And here is the Normcore version 2. All right, that wraps up the comparison. I would love to hear in the comments which one you would get. For me, I am really torn because there are pros and cons to each of them for me personally. I love the feel of the C2 compared to the Normcore, and I think that it just feels better in the hand. I like the sound of the grinding, and the grinding process is super fast. The Normcore does feel a bit more premium though, for good reason, and I really don't think you can go wrong with either of them. If I was going to end up with just one, I would probably lean towards the C2 with the feel and speed of the grinding to win the day for me. At the end of the day, competition is good. I think newer entries like this may push other companies to enter into the sub $100 range. There are other grinders out there such as the Varia hand grinder, the JX from EasyPresso, the Q2 from EasyPresso, and other options from Timemore such as the Slim and Nano that use slightly different burrs, but they're also over $100 and under $150. So there's a slight gap, but I think the quality is pretty consistent. For the money, you really can't go wrong with either the Normcore or the Timemore. Let me know what you think in the comments. What grinders do you want to see on this channel? If you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I have some really fun videos planned for the future.